Right. Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. We are launching the project on youth participation in peace building. Very excited to have all the guests and participants in this call because this is a very, very important discussion that we need to discuss today. And with me on the call is Mahin, the CEO of WomenAscension. We also have Gloria Hingoma, Victor Mukonda, Musa Abubakar, and Jameson Kachimwa. So we're very, very excited to have all the participants in this call. I am very also glad to be given this opportunity to be able to moderate this discussion this afternoon. My name is Andrew Munganga, and I'll be your moderator for today. So without further ado, we shall go to the first presentation. Remember, we are launching the project today on youth participation. So this project is actually has actually been brought in by our wonderful leader, that is Gloria Hingoma. So she's with us on the call. She's actually the project initiator and also the founder for Zambia Peace, Conflict Resolution and Development Initiative. So she's actually going to be our first presenter this afternoon. Madam Gloria, please, you're most welcome. And if you're ready, you can give me a sign and then you begin the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andrew Munganga. And it's good afternoon from Zambia. How are you, everyone? Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for joining us in this very important meeting discussing Zambia's peacefulness. Before I go into the project focus, I just want to share a bit on where we premise our, our project, or rather our understandings, and also where we derive our objectives for our project. Zambia as a whole is one of the countries that has not experienced a civil war, or you can say that it has been relatively peaceful. However, there has been a decline in Zambia's peacefulness in the past few years. The decline in Zambia's levels of peacefulness at both the global and continental levels is an indicator of fundamentals not functioning correctly where our peace is concerned. So this drop has seen Zambia move from being the 44th most peaceful country in 2020 to the 71st most peaceful country in the world. So Zambia has declined to actually 27 places worse off in 2021 compared to 2020, of course, in terms of levels of peacefulness. And most of this information can be gotten from IEP, which is the Institute of Economic and Peace, which measures levels of peacefulness across different countries. So similarly, if you look at Zambia in terms of, or rather in relation to sub-Saharan Africa, it has also reduced from 4th most peaceful country to the 13th. So this calls for concern and action. Of course, there's so many reasons pertaining to peace and security that have contributed to this status. And of course, we are saying that Zambia can no longer settle for peace as an abstract concept or wish. Similar to conflict and violence, peace does not just happen, but result from direct cultural and structural decisions that people and societies make. So if you look at since 2016, we have experienced political violence. So we cannot say that those are just accidents, but these are decisions that societies make, and we want to change the narrative. We want to change, create a platform through which we can sustain peace. And sustaining peace is not just one-off intervention. but an ongoing process that requires nurturing, conceiving peace as a public good for which the state, stakeholders, and citizens collaboratively undertake through national policies and initiatives. So peace and stability is our focus, and we need to be able to cultivate by promoting values and behaviors that reflect and inspire social interaction and sharing based on the principles of freedom, justice, democracy, and human rights, and of course, tolerance and solidarity. Sometimes communities may think that we are just trying to securitize this notion of peace and security, but we need to understand that peace, sustaining peace does not just apply to conflict-affected countries who are coming or are experiencing the ravages of violent conflicts, but in non-warring societies like Zambia, there is need to embark on conflict prevention, preparing the communities to be resilient and also be able to promote peaceful coexistence within our societies. Therefore, sustaining peace should be the primary goal of, even if it's the primary goal of the state. However, our effort as the Zambia Peace Conflict Resolution is to complement the strategies that the state is spearheading to promote peace and security among citizens. And it is very important that the capacity of the communities is strengthened so that all population groups can be able to participate for peace action. So before I go any further into, or rather just allow me to just share my screen first, just so you can be able to see what we are looking for in terms of our project. Yeah, so based on that understanding of the situation in the country and the decline in levels of peacefulness, as Zambia Peace Conflict Resolution, we are premised to provide a platform through which the grassroots level can actually collaborate and in a participatory manner to come up with peace strategies that can help young people to understand how to take leadership for peace. So, of course, the talking point from what I've already discussed, however, in more specific terms, we want to look at how structural vulnerabilities have impacted Zambia to come to a level where conflicts at political level are not have not been managed appropriately. So Zambia's structural inequalities actually have been seen to go in an upward trajectory, with key driving factors of conflict being triggered along fault lines of marginalization of the periphery by the center, with a link on social, economic, and political exclusion. And looking at our main target for this project, youth and women, we discovered that the majority of youth are unemployed and aware of peace and ethical values, which is a threat to peacefulness. As I mentioned earlier, since 2016, electoral violence increased, with youth choosing to engage in violence as a means of livelihood, children and women growing to see direct violence, cultural violence, and structural violence as a norm, and particularly communities dividing on tribal lines. So this is what we are trying to address as an organization in support of what is already being spearheaded by the state. And our vision is to strengthen Zambia's capacity to build peace through local-led peace awareness and empowerment strategies. Our approach basically looks at how to activate young women, young people, and young women to contribute towards the achievement of the goal 16 of the Sustainable Development Goals, and ultimately until 2030 through innovative and locally owned peace building strategies. We realize that these are normative frameworks which are being spearheaded by African Union. And of course, our interest is to ensure that people are conversant with these documents and frameworks to be able to carry out peace activities at a local level, and also organizing peace educational training workshops for youths, teachers, women, and children across different sectors. And of course, identifying other vulnerable groups that we can be able to reach. So when you look at the traditional approach in this sense, we are looking at what is at stake, what is the status quo that is prevailing. So from our little research and consultations, based on what we want to address in terms of systems change, we look at knowledge and skills for peace building in Zambia. We can say they are limited to certain subjects and courses, but not very comprehensive. And also promotion of peace is usually top down, mostly by politicians. There are no specific peace projects at community level, and also limited policy direction or infrastructures of peace at national level. Limited strategies to address violence apart from use of force through police and other security wings. So we are envisaging a situation where we can be able to spearhead peace in a multidimensional manner, and also be inclusive. So our approach basically is locally led peace building that is participatory and collaborative, and engages the victims of violence in the development of these projects, and also uses informal awareness programs, and also adapt local knowledge about peace and security issues, because we understand that in as much as we have been relatively stable, it implies that there's attributes and attitudes that are inherent in our society that we can capitalize on and take advantage to actually build on and maintain our peace as we develop new strategies that we can sustain. And based on these understandings, we have also devised a problem tree. I'm sure this is one of the concepts or tools that you might have used, but we decided to look at this tool to try to understand the magnitude of the problem, and looking at the root causes of the situation that we have at hand, and also looking at what we need to do to focus on the areas of intervention that we might need to look at. This problem tree tool gives us four aspects, which is lack of political will for peace and empathy for masses. And also we see retrogressive cultural practices, and also lack of national institutional operational framework for peace, in as much as we have government line departments and other bodies that provide policy direction for, for example, maybe election governance. We need also at community level to have infrastructures of peace where communities can mobilize themselves and address early warning issues that pertain to conflict and also instability. Well, we also look at the issue of lack of peace education and knowledge and capacities in schools and institutions in terms of curriculum development, and also skills and knowledge that can spearhead cohesion and unity. Last but not the least, of course, there's so many other issues that can be identified. Is lack of conflict sensitivity to government development plans and programs, and also limited action for peace interventions. So these are some of the issues that we prioritize in our project. And when you look at number three on the bottom line is what we want to focus on and prioritize given the resources that we have. Of course, incorporating all these others that have been identified. So when we critically summarize the problem, we come up with this situation, which is lack of formal and informal capacity building or awareness programs in peace and ethical knowledge and skills, and of course, action for peace building among youth and women. So these systems are not present, or they are not strong enough to actually bring up a change of mindset in terms of how we approach conflict and how we manage it, and also how we contribute to coexistence in our community. So these are the consequences having looked at the root causes, these are the consequences which we have actually observed over time, issues to do with tribalism, hate speech, prejudice and intolerance, creating a culture that supports violence or disunity, and also youths being used as political tool, being used by politicians to perpetuate violence just for the sake of a small token for their livelihood. So we discover that economic insecurity is one issue that we might need to look at. Also, absence or weak local leadership capacity to promote action for peace, thereby perpetuating a culture of violence due to increased social economic inequalities. So these are some of the issues that we need to, we essentially to address, and we want to see a different society that promotes or rather strengthen youth and women's capacities with knowledge and skills in peace and ethical values, and take action for peace in various sectors, and also build resilience to learn to live together and adopt non-violence ways of resolving conflicts. So in this project, we have taken the systems change approach in trying to address, these problems. And if you're able to see this slide, we are able to see about three. I'm trying to just make it a bit. Yeah. So what it is that we are trying to get the systems change approach. We're trying to change the systems in which peace awareness and action, are derived, and or the interventions are being developed. So looking at plot 1, we want to engage in trainer of trainers activities in peace and ethical education, and this will require, capacity building in peace and ethical education in various districts of Zambia, and also through these people who will be trained, we should be able to roll out these interventions in different parts of or different structures rather, to be able also to come up or rather establish peace committees and also peace clubs in schools and other higher learning institutions in that sense. All that, the way you have seen this diagram, these interventions should be able to contribute to peace awareness and action among youth and women. So once they have that capacity built, we should be able to see even a number of peace and advocacy on peace and security issues, because now we can be able to hold events and workshops that can be conducted at local level, and of course through collaboration with other regional or local stakeholders or other civil society organizations. So we also want to design innovative local youth-led peace building projects, because we are using the local-led peace building approaches. We want to see youths in a participatory manner come up with interventions that can build their societies, and increasing the number of peace projects that we want to see in our society, enabling a peaceful environment. Another line, or rather solutions that we have included, look at the government financial and regulation support. We cannot work without the support from the government. It could be through funding, and also peace and security networks or coordination or consultancy that we can also help the government to spearhead these peace and security, or rather peace building projects, both at national level and local level. In that way, we can have a community that has a link and support in terms of spearheading these kinds of projects on the ground. And of course, building capacity of different youth groups, of course, including teachers and also political party youths, because this is where we have a number of issues that we might need to promote political leadership in for peace. So also localizing peace and security programming. You discover that UNESCO and the African Union have got these agendas promoting a culture of peace and also ensuring peace and security among its member states through the normative framework that I've mentioned. And we can be able to leverage this opportunity by getting acquainted with their guidelines and manuals that we can implement on the ground. And also regulations, mainstreaming. So once we have the support of the government, we have some backing and support from leading organization in this field, we should be able to support the processes of establishing or other and even implementation of infrastructures of peace, both at national and local level. And of course, the ultimate goal is to ensure that peace people, young people and women are aware of peace values and are able to take action whenever there is need. So these milestones or these solutions that we have put, we have also looked at the monetized systems change story, which looks at what other activities that we can look at that can fundraise for the project and also ensure that activities are sustainable to an extent. So we're looking at holiday peace clubs, peace project consultancy, which we can engage with various organizations, peace building awareness to institutional workshops. There's so many organizations that are into maybe security, providing security interventions or development interventions. So we need to have that link between peace and development intervention. And with that kind of support, we can be able to develop projects that have got a peace lens and are conflict sensitive. So when we look at the resources needed across the main interventions that we want to start with, we can look at it in terms of the phase 1 of this project. We want to concentrate on TOTs for peace and ethical education. And of course, most of these activities will require expertise, partnership in peace and security issues, and of course, monetary and financial support. And of course, we are open, we are looking to engage with partners also passionate about education for peace building for youth and women. And these, of course, may include resource providers and also complementary organizations and allies that are in line with our objective. So far, we have identified some stakeholders that we are already engaged in, and also those that we plan to engage with. So we have WomenAscension and Push Women. These are some of the organizations that we have worked with and have been able to work with African Students for Liberty for some advocacy programs, and also through local conveners, we have been able to do some collaboration with UNESCO. So all these stakeholders, if you look at local government and traditional leaders, political party leaders and youth, is of our primary concern, because these are the ones who can promote peace at local level and can assist with mainstreaming these programs. And of course, political leadership is very vital for all these activities. So looking at the status quo, as I've tried to describe earlier, we are looking at so many weaknesses in terms of the system to promote peace. However, we want to see a better situation where youth are able to participate economically and able to reject violence. We should be able to see peace committees at local level and also ensure social cohesion and many issues that can improve formal education for in peace building and also support the informal ones. So of course, I've taken a lot of time, but I've come to an end. We are available, and we can continue these conversations regarding this project and how we want to ensure that it reaches the intended targets, and organizations can come on board and spearhead these projects as planned. Thank you so much. I'll end here, and over to the coordinator, please. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Madam. That was very insightful. And I am sure all the participants have actually understood you very well. So we really want to appreciate for that insight presentation. Okay, so for any question, please, you can just type them in the chat box. And so at the end of the webinar, she will be able to answer your questions. So thank you very much once more, Madam. So for us to appreciate how we can just type in the chat box, appreciating that insight and awesome presentation. So without further ado, we are going to go to the next presentation. And so now we're going to have Mr. Victor Mukonda. The last time I was, I referred to him as captain, and you know, fortunately now he has moved to the next rank. So he's going to do the introduction himself. And so he's going to talk about young people's participation in peace building, as well as being agents of conflict management. So Mr. Victor, over to you. Please, you can unmute your mic. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrew. Are you able to get me?
Yes, audible.
Okay, that's great. The moderator, Andrew, may I also take recognition of the chairperson for WomenAscension and Ms. Gloria for organizing this event. As introduced, I'm Major Victor Mukonda from the Zambia Army, and I'm also founder and CEO of Youth for Peace Zambia. As Youth for Peace Zambia, we are a youth-driven nonprofit organization that empowers youth and also tries to promote a culture of peace through different activities, including literacy campaigns and culture festivals. So actually, it is an honor to be part of this very important webinar, which is discussing a very important issue. And I think in my case, I'll be more or less just speaking on the obvious. So I'll try to be as brief as possible, because I feel the issue of the importance of youth when it comes to peace building or to any processes of peace is something that everybody, I think, appreciates, and it is important from time to time to remind ourselves. So this afternoon, I'll be trying to actually just remind ourselves of the importance of young people in peace processes. But before I do that, I want to just briefly comment on something that Gloria actually said when she started her presentation. She did make mention that Zambia is hailed as an oasis of peace. We are known to be peaceful people, and our country has been relatively peaceful since independence in 1964. Regardless of the statistics that were given, that is a fact that we actually appreciate, that indeed we are peaceful. But she also mentioned that we should never actually take this peace for granted. And that is actually very true. In my line of work, I've been privileged to travel around and to work in different countries, including war-torn countries. For example, the Central African Republic, which I'm sure all of us are aware of what is happening in that country. So when I was in that country, before I actually went there, I had a different perception of a society which is torn by violent conflict, or a society which is at war. Okay, but what struck me actually when I was in that country, working in that country for about a year, was to realize that in actual sense, there was nothing very peculiar about the country itself and its people. I realized the people of that country were people just like us, just like Zambians. The society was society just like ours. And some of the problems or challenges they were facing are some of the problems and challenges I see in my own country. So it was a bit scary for me to realize that there's actually a thin line between, living in a country where we're professing peace and things deteriorating probably to the point where we find ourselves in a war-torn or a conflict situation. So I think that is a starting point to understand that there's a thin line actually between what we take for granted as peace and what can happen if we do not deliberately put in effort and have forums and projects like this one to ensure that this peace we enjoy is sustained, and of course we spread it around as others have actually, as Gloria actually said. So I want to commend very much in line with what we're doing ourselves, and we'll be looking forward to collaborating with our organization and other partners, of course, to see that this project, reaches its fullest potential. Now, going back as I mentioned earlier, I think it goes without saying when we talk about the importance of young people when it comes to efforts or anything to do with peace building. Why? Because if we begin only with statistics, you are aware that more than 65% of the continent's population, that is Africa, is made up of young people. In Zambia, the statistics are somewhere around 53 point something percent being the youth under the age of 18. So I will not go into details, but that alone in itself should tell you that any plan or project that is initiated, and here again, I want to also mention that involvement of youth, in the past, you would see youth being involved probably at the time when a project is being implemented or as beneficiaries. But I think by nature, if we talk about peace building in itself, what it entails, the structures it seeks to build, and also the process itself being a long-term process. It means that the involvement of youth needs not only needs actually to start from the very inception of projects, as I think outlined in the presentation that Gloria gave. I'm glad that she used the word locally driven initiative or project, meaning the involvement of youth in this case would start at the very start of the project, and that is actually what we also advocate for as an organization. We believe that everything has to be youth driven. You cannot design programs and projects in the absence of the people that you're designing them for. So that being a point, any project which does not involve young people at inception as it unfolds and as it is implemented, I think is doomed to failure. And that is the reason why we felt strongly to be part of this webinar and to speak about the importance of youth, starting from the fact that they make up a large majority of the population in any country, I would assume, and that being the case here in our own country, Zambia. Besides that, you also appreciate that the young people, there's a common saying, I think we've all heard it before, that the young people are future leaders. And I think that is something we should dispel forthwith. I think the future is now, I would say. Youth are no longer the leaders of tomorrow. Why? Because we have been overrun by events, in the sense that our society now is driven by tools and systems that favor more of young people actually than the older generation. So it is now more than ever that young people have got the tools at their disposal. They've got the ability to actually take up the challenge as leaders of today. And the beauty is, as young people, they do not only lead themselves as young people, but they're also able to lead even those that are from the older generation. So it's a leadership which goes forward and back at the same time, which gives the young people this unique position to actually be agents of positive change. Now, again, we must understand that any any change, any form of change, does not begin with mobilization or taking action and going out on the ground, hitting the ground running. And I think that is something that we try to emphasize as Youth for Peace Zambia. As an organization that pushes the agenda of literacy campaigns or education, and I think it also came out clearly in the project we're launching today, the issue of peace education. It is important to understand that the starting point actually for getting youth to be, of course, you can say they're already involved to some extent in the peace building processes. The extent or the nature of their involvement is probably where we're having a problem. As mentioned, in the past, youths are thought of as more of agents of conflict and violence for different reasons. They may be vulnerable because of their economic position or other things, but that has been the tradition to think about or to think of youth as, perpetrators of violence or those elements within the peace building process that, of course, on the other side of what is being what we are trying to achieve, which is trying to build a lasting peace. So that is also something that we need to address, because we need to move away from thinking of youth as tools of violence, because to some extent that is how they have been involved initially in these processes. And that is actually even worse when we talk about the African youth. The perception is that African youth, are more prone to these acts of violence other than anything else. And I think that is something that really needs to be addressed. So the youth are an important, component of the process. And here, when you talk about the process, youth, as identified, I think, by UN Resolution 2250, we're talking about what roles can the youth play as peacemakers, as mediators, as peace builders, okay, as leaders. So it's broad in the sense that there are many roles, actually, many important roles that the youth can be, involved in order for them to actually participate. And here I'm emphasizing again, their participation now needs to be positive in nature. So the starting point, like I said, I'm glad education was top on what was discussed in the presentation. And as an organization, we are also looking into the possibilities, in fact, of having a peace education handbook. I'll be looking forward to working with Gloria on that particular aspect of the project, the issue of peace education in schools especially, and the issue of setting up peace clubs, which I also feel is very much important. Now, if we look at some of the challenges that young people are facing when it comes to their ability or the opportunity that they have to take part in peace processes and in peace building in general, it boils down to what were identified as the challenges from the presentation. We were talking about here, do we have the political will to have young people become partners and, to be active participants, to be meaningful participants actually in the peace building process? Do we have the infrastructure to support young people to play that role? And do we have the systems in place to further, support the whole peace building process and the integration actually of young people in peace building processes and in all the other activities related to that? So those are the challenges, and the only unique thing about, or the only difference, is that in as much as these challenges affect the broad, almost everybody in society, I think for the youth, it is more pronounced because of the nature of who they are, the position they're in, often as students, often as people who do not have the financial muscle, or those that are just starting out in life. So it is important actually that as we are looking at this, we focus again on, yes, we need to build these systems and structures generally for all the people, or for every citizen in a country, but we need to consider that for young people, there's a special consideration that needs to be there because of their peculiarity or the fact that they might be different from other members of society. So putting these structures in place that support, meaningful participation of young people is critical in any project. And I think that is something that has been identified even in the presentation. And also, having, of course, structures and infrastructure that can train and educate young people. And when we talk about an education here, I would want to talk about education and training in two forms. To begin with, I want to talk about the education and training needed for peace building. That is very important. Why? Because, like I said, everything needs to start with the mindset change, because that is the starting point. If we're going to promote a culture of peace, we need to start by seeing that we change how young people view peace and how young people view conflict. For example, through working with young people, we've discovered that young people do not really understand what conflict is and the difference between conflict and violence. We try to emphasize that conflict is a natural part of life, and like one thing I said should be calm. I said conflict is the prime move of change. Every society has evolved through resolving conflict, and we need to embrace and appreciate that actually it is conflict that helps us, build ourselves as a society and to reach greater heights. Then we must also differentiate between, or to distinguish between productive and unproductive conflict. I think that is where the blur actually comes in, when young people fail to appreciate that we might be at conflict with someone, but that doesn't mean if I disagree with the person or if I disagree with their opinion, then we cannot coexist, or that is any cause for violent behavior. So that is something that we have noticed and something that needs to be addressed. Equally, the issue of what peace actually is, we need to redefine, not really redefine, but we need to re-examine and understand, and of course, teach and help young people appreciate the meaning of peace. Like we said, Zambia is a peaceful country, but already, like Gloria highlighted in her statistics, there are a lot of other forms of violence. And here we're talking about structural violence that is persisting. And in my opinion, I'll say it persists because of structural forms of violence. So those are things that need to be addressed. So that is the education in the sense of, equipping young people with the knowledge, and this knowledge will translate into skills of peace building, skills of conflict resolution. And this is, you cannot, I would say, you cannot become a peace builder by accident. Probably you can appreciate one or two things about peace, but creating or building an attitude or an individual that appreciates peace to the point that we can call this individual a peace builder requires effort. It requires investment, and it requires commitment. And like we said, if peace building is a long-term process, ever evolving, it means even the nature of the training that we give to young people must equally be fluid and must adapt with changing environments and different situations. So when it comes to that type of education, we must appreciate that young people need to be told, or young people need to be trained to be peace builders. It is not going to happen by itself. And projects like this, I think, are a good starting point in that regard. Then the other point when it comes to education and training is now on the aspect of empowerment. And that is something we have always, I think, embraced as an organization, having realized that you cannot teach a peace builder, you cannot teach a young person to be peaceful or to act, in a certain manner if that person is not given the necessary tools and skills to empower themselves and is not empowered in general. Because as mentioned, at times young people fall prey or become vulnerable to be used as tools of violence because of probably their economic or socio-economic predicament. So being in a position where we can empower youth to fend or to be able to make a livelihood for themselves is something that will help the cause of peace or the cause of training peace builders. And that is an important point also to actually consider. And when we're talking about education here, formal education, yes, but we must also appreciate the aspect of skills training, or building, helping our youth or young people acquire useful skills that they can actually use. As one, I think, economist has said, we are now moving from a job economy into more or less like a skills economy, where we need young people to embrace and appreciate that there are different skills that they can actually acquire that can help them, fend for themselves. And by doing so, they become less vulnerable to probably what can be happening in a country. So, like I said, my presentation actually is just a reminder. And I think if I were to sum up the importance of young people in peace building, the importance of young people in conflict resolution, I would say young people are like this force that can be used, depending on how we harness it. Why? Because like I mentioned, young people are resourceful, young people are energetic, they are passionate, they are creative, they are hopeful, they are all those things, all that potential. And it's that potential that actually defines what the peace building process is. The peace building process is defined by the spirit of youth, in my opinion. All the good things about young people, I think, are what would make an effective peace building process successful. So, as a country, as as people, as organizations, we need to appreciate that potential and to see that we direct it. Young people need to, understand, to combine all that that makes them, powerful peace builders, with knowledge and patience and an understanding, in order for them to become effective peace builders. Because the danger is that if we have zeal without knowledge, then it can end up, working against the cause that we are actually trying to, or the agenda that we're trying to push for, which is peaceful societies and conflict, a positive or constructive resolution of conflict. So that is the nature. If we want to understand the role that youth can play or their value in the peace building process and conflict resolution, we look at who the youth are, who is the young person, and what potential do they have, be in their formative stage where their minds are shaping up, and how can we tap into that potential and use it to make them, shape them up to be agents of positive change. That is the first starting point. The second point, again, as I mentioned, is to appreciate that young people are not going to turn into these peace builders overnight by themselves. They need to be guided, they need to be trained, they need to be empowered. And beyond that, we also need to put in systems and structures and infrastructure, as earlier mentioned by Gloria, that support this integration process. So if we're going to look at it at different levels and broadly, I would say we look at it at changing or putting in input to promote young people and the roles that they play in peace building, looking at it from the individual level, where we empower this young person with the knowledge and skills for peace building and conflict resolution. Then we also look at probably the family level. We try to see how families are, are also embracing a culture of peace and supporting young people that will lead us into the communities, as this project is locally driven, those are community level interventions. And finally, it will bring us to national level, where we need to have necessary structures, necessary laws, and opportunity for young person to effectively participate in these processes. And I say effectively because they have been involved in the past, and probably it is the manner in which young people have been involved in peace processes, in political processes, in peace building processes that have brought given bad name to what young people are capable of doing. But now we need to turn that around and acknowledge and realize that there's great potential for young people to be used as agents of positive change, as I mentioned earlier. So that kind of wraps up my brief. I did a very brief presentation. Once again, I'm glad, I'm happy I was invited to be part of this launch. It's an excellent project. The way it has been brought out, I think, and the planning has been very thorough and comprehensive, and I look forward to working with Gloria and others in implementing the project and that she actually. Thank you so much, everyone online, for listening, and back to Andrew.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Victor. That was really insightful. We really appreciate you. And I think participants have actually gotten one or two things out of the discussion or the presentation that you actually had this afternoon. So we need youths are very important in the participation of in peace building. And so that was very insightful. Thank you very much. At this point in time, allow me just to quickly welcome the one who is actually going to give us a poem just in less than 3 minutes. She's going to give us a poem. And so, Abubakar, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, please, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. The poem I have today is titled, I Am Tired. And it goes like this. I am left with no choice but to beg. Beg you and you and you with my heart hanging at the edge of hope. I will continue to rub my knee on the floor till you answer my call to action. Till all this destructive vibration and blah ends, till you stop relaxing your nerves, listening to just my tone or my voice or my style, or the lessons buried in my words. So until when will you feel my words? Until when will you feel the weight my words carry? Until when will you believe that I am too fragile to rally? Until when will you stop moving with all these instabilities that sounds outlandish and hard? Hard for me and you to digest what is wrong or what is right. In a country that soaks her children's pride in a bowl covered by a balmy hands of betrayal and sinister. In a country that flushes the hope of her children, denying them the freedom to live a life free from bandits, kidnappers, and now with no single napper. In a country, every head all in the name of a race to win a chunky medal designed with corruption. In a country where my opinion or your idea doesn't matter, where your tongue and my lips are locked up with some piece of rubber. So will you continue to walk along the wide, harmful street, playing the focus song with your eyes covered with envy and jealousy? Will you prefer dancing to this tone of crying babies and mothers? I believe it's time we caution ourselves. It's time we quench this fire I named unemployment. It's time we quench this fire with prayers and hope. For I have decided not to stammer again. My words echoes authoritatively with the ability to eliminate deception and take responsibilities for my action. For I am tired. I'm tired for craving for peace and silence. Thank you very much, Dazzle.
Thank you very much, Chua. Spatulu, please, you can come in with creating awareness programs in order to have a sustainable, peaceful environment. Thank you. Mr. Joshua, you can come in. Please, you can tell me when you're ready so that you begin the presentation. Thank you. Okay, so in line with our program today, we're supposed to have Mr. Joshua coming in with creating awareness programs in order to have a sustainable, peaceful environment. Now that probably we're still having prepare himself, we can have Mr. Changa elaborate on in resolving conflict. We need to contributing to conflict, and how do we?
From the Republic of Zambia, we're very grateful for this opportunity, and we have been following through the presentations that have been made by different stakeholders and players with regards to building a better society and subsequent a better world for all of us to live in. I don't know whether protocols are in order here to mention, but I'm looking at the time that we have spent, and I'm going to summarize my presentation with regards to what has caused this violence, how much has been put in place, and who is responsible, and who is supposed to chart the way forward for peace. And on that note, I want to personally tender my gratitude to Madam Gloria for this opportunity and space created for everybody around the globe to speak with regards to peace. I must be quick to mention that that we wear different political regalias or affiliations or religious practices and beliefs, we still remain as one people. And I wonder why we fight and why we are used as tools of violence, in particular for the youth, especially in a calendar year. Now, looking at the problem that has led us to where we are today, you are right. I want to also concur with Major when he said above 50% of Zambia's population comprises of young people. Unfortunately, the statistics do not translate into Zambia's main source of revenue and youth being the center of production and productive forces with regards to economic contribution, such as being stakeholders in works, entrepreneurs, and the like. And as such, most of our youth are either hungry, frustrated, unemployed, and they want to fend for themselves and their families. And mostly when those who've made it, who've gone beyond the bracket of youth, want to ascend to power or keep on staying there, they'll come to the vulnerable youth and they'll dangle the bigger carrot. And in that moment, it doesn't matter which political party you affiliate with or what is your belief or religious affiliation, you'll just be used as an arsenal of weapon. We must continue to speak about peace, not only in election years or election calendar years, but everywhere where the youth are vulnerable. And these campaigns in particular should be birthed in our communities from an individual perspective. What is your concern? What is your take? The brother who's going to be used to hack somebody or stone somebody or unleash the vengeance on somebody is a brother whom, when circumstances are different, perhaps you needed some food or help, is a brother who would run to. So one wonders what triggers us to all of a sudden become vengeful and become enemies all of a sudden. So this initiative that has been launched or that has come before us should be birthed in our communities, from your home, then to your neighbor, then as you board the bus, if you do board one, as you go to church, because all of us are a member of a particular grouping or community. And as such, when we live in isolation, when we keep the peace to ourselves and the importance of this resolve away from our brothers, our sisters, and colleagues, then we are the ones who in turn become vulnerable and affected in times of conflict and war. Most importantly, the church doesn't speak mostly about being united as a people, except during elections. That's when calls from stakeholders are put. Now, what are we doing? For example, in the case of Zambia, all these days before the actual election, we are one people, we are living together. But within 90 days of the election year, all of a sudden, everybody's talking about peace and peace and peace. And in that moment, it becomes so difficult to reach out to would-be perpetrators or to would-be victims of the same conflict. And no wonder we see that Zambia actually has even we've actually been removed from our position of being the peace hub in terms of where we were and where we are today because of the violences that have been perpetrated. Most of the platforms that have been used with regards to perpetrating violence has come from the political circles. One wonders, all these leaders we subscribe to and respect and honor, all have children at home, and they don't carry them to be arsenals to terrorize or interrogate or interfere with other people's lives, because they are children to them. And equally, it should be communicated to these stakeholders that we are also somebody's children, and as such, it is very important that we are seen in that manner, regardless of our difficulties, our challenges, our anger, and other things that might have affected us prior to the elections. Maybe some of us are promised positions, some of us are promised money, but you have to weigh whether the food you're going to eat is worth the life you're going to claim, because the person you are sent to attack has got a family that is that they are depending on. And if we're going to have a reduced number of children on the street, then we have to be each other's keepers, not only in the election year, but all the time. So it's very important that as we embark on this peace building journey, as the people, as youth, political parties should be clear when they commit. We've seen a lot of collaborations, peace corps and treaties, but that does not translate into the youth being protected. And mostly this youth, perhaps some of whom might have the potential to serve, but because the spaces are not given to them, to us, then we are vulnerable, and then we are constantly told you've got time on your side, you are the leaders of tomorrow. And then tomorrow has not come. And no wonder we are 53% in terms of majority with regards to the population in Zambia. As such, imagine such number being put to the right use in the position of leadership, mentored to learn. We want to send leaders who are productive, responsible in the next 5 to 10 years. Opportunities and platforms should be created now, because if we are going to get opportunities then we would have grown into other people, we'll never be able to listen to anybody who brings the cause for peace. Therefore, I think we have to list our stakeholders, in particular the churches, religious groups, political parties, especially political parties. Also, it's very important, each time we see police officers, they always come to arrest somebody, but I've seen few, if not none, campaigns and awareness programs from the law enforcers. You hear your ignorance has no defense in the courts of law, but majority of our brothers don't even know which one is a crime, which one is not a crime. So how are you going to jail somebody on account of ignorance when you did not spell to them what crime is and what crime is not? So it's very, very important that stakeholders, including the law enforcers, such as the Zambia police, for example, the law, the judiciary, and other wings of the government, to come on board so that everybody, where they are. Like, for example, we have this platform and we're talking peace, but how many of our brothers on the streets have the same platform to know the importance of peace? More so when you look at the institution of learning, such as primary schools, secondary schools, and subsequent universities. These are avenues that believe that in order for us to be given ears by our leaders, we have to we have to be violent, we have to demonstrate, we have to break people's properties, we have to do all these things. I think it's very, very important that from a tender age, like Madam Gloria had put it, this curriculum should speak to peace as being a very important component with regards to building sustainable homes, sustainable families, sustainable economies, and subsequent sustainable peace and a united world. Now, going forward, what do we need to do? We need to tailor the message to the would-be recipient of this awareness program. These should be constant calls. If we could reach to the church and make sure that during the announcements in our various congregations and our religious affiliation, the calls for peace are constantly mentioned, because when we emphasize the importance of peace in the election calendar year and not emphasize the importance of peace as our day-to-day activity or life, then we are fighting a lost cause. But if churches are calling for peace, if pupils, when they sing the national anthem or they're in class, they recite some peace quotes and they understand the importance of living in a one diverse world where you respect people's views and that you shouldn't be right all the time and other people have got different opinions than you, then we're going to fight this vice that has affected us for a long time. Then we want to see law enforcement officers, for example, when you look at congested places, if you went to watch a soccer match, you will discover that most of the people who come and drum up support are the guys who are found on the street. So if, imagine law enforcers went there, first of all, they will tell them, we're here to protect you and protect the players, however, to also sensitize you on the importance of peace. So as you are celebrating, whatever you are doing, make sure that you are each other's keepers. So like that, it will be very difficult for any politician to come and use the youth and young people as weapons for mass destruction, because our lifestyle would have been coexistence always. We go to the same church, they talk about peace. We watch soccer, they talk about peace. We go to school, they talk about peace. When we are in hospitals, we talk about peace. So everybody should be talking about peace, so that it sits and sinks with us, such that in an election year, no youth from anywhere will be used as a weapon for mass destruction and as a radar to be used by politicians and perpetrators when they are ascending to the powers. Also, it's very important that we engage in campaigns, which I've actually mentioned. Not campaigns in an election year, but campaigns like the launch of this program. Zambia is coming from an election year 8 months ago, where we ushered in a new regime. As a country and as a people, we should constantly remind our leaders, our representatives, and our service deliverers to ensure that they advocate for peace, not that they sleep and wait until there's conflict or there's violence. That's when everybody wants to talk about peace, but we should talk about peace. I'm sure most of us have seen the circulation on social media of our sister Pamela, who's been kidnapped. And such violence is happening to us because obviously none of us, or a few of us, thought that can happen to us. We just see it in movies. But then if it's being perpetrated in our spaces and in our homes and in our communities, then it is telling you and I that this vice of conflict and violence is just right in our doorsteps. That's why in my preamble, I mentioned that the cause for peace is to you, to your household, to the next household, to the next street, and the subsequent community, so that everybody talks about peace. In my conclusion, I think we have to remember always as a people that we are one youth, we are one people, we are one community, we are one society, that we wear different political regalia and colors, that we worship from different temples, that we support different soccer teams, that we subscribe to a different belief system. It has got no bearing on it being an incentive to fight when our views are different. Therefore, as young people, we have to take it to our brothers out there who are used, because nobody can come to me and say, oh, Mr. Mkwavi wanted to go and hack somebody. They won't come to me because I'm well enlightened. I understand that there's no return that's worth taking somebody's life or engaging in violence. So I believe that when we fight hunger, illiteracy, when we embark on awareness campaigns, when we stop discrimination, you know, a lot of us are being discriminated because of our affiliation. Some people are being laughed at because of the political party they affiliate with. Others are being laughed at because their leaders perhaps lost. The question is, why are you laughing when I made the choice to vote for whoever I voted for? Whether they won or didn't win, I should be commended for participating in democracy. I would have shunned away the process, but I chose to participate. And we should live as one people. Since your candidate got the highest of results, now it's time for all of us to rally behind your candidate and succeed, because when your candidate succeeds, I will succeed and my community will succeed. So when we start having such conversations as youth and young people, to show that you can be a PF guy, a UPND guy, a PEP guy, a socialist guy, any NDC guy, any political party you subscribe to, that is just an ideology, philosophy, or system you've chosen to participate. But before that, you are Zambian, you are an African, you are from whatever country you might come from. Your allegiance should be first to the nation, because that's the first reward we'll ever give you to certify that you're a bona fide citizen, a green national registration card in case of Zambia, whereby you can go and get whatever political parties you want to. But the voters card bears Zambia, the coat of arms, and all those things. Therefore, it shows to us that those are not just mere tools, but they are reminders of who we are as a people. Most importantly, that this victory that we have, this peace that we have, cost our forefathers' lives. It cost a lot of stakeholders, a lot of people who came before us, lives for us to live in a society that appreciates and respects our diverse views, our value as human beings, and our rights as a people. So we are youth, regardless of our political affiliation, regardless of our religious affiliation, regardless of our political regalia, and everything that we do, we have to remember to build sustainable homes such that we should enjoy the peace today without endangering the peace for our friends who are yet to come tomorrow. On that note, I want to end by saying, all of us, this is a clarion call to ensure that we champion this peace, not only because this call has been initiated by Madame Gloria, not because this call has been initiated by other people, but it is our primary mandate and responsibility to guard our peace with jealousy. And the statistics are showing that Zambia is slowly losing its grip. So let's go all of us hands-on to ensure that we return to being a peace hub for Africa, for the region and the world at large. Remember, this love we have for this country is unapologetic, and let's all fight to ensure that we secure the peace that we were given by our forefathers. Thank you.
Wow. Anybody just confirm if I'm audible right now?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that presentation, sir. And that was very, very wonderful. At least you were on time. We really want to appreciate that insightful presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, so we can still appreciate our speaker, Mr. Changala, who was just presenting right away. And so the next presenter is Mr. Joshua. Please, you can also just take note of the time. I know we've really gone beyond our time, but it's very, very important that we talk about these matters and be able to successfully launch the project today. Okay, so Mr. Joshua, if you are available, please, you can just confirm with me and unmute your mic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you just confirm if I'm audible enough?
Not really. Not really. Are you using headset?
Yes, I'm in a place I'm kind of having challenges with my network, but let me try the other device. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but not very audible.
Not very audible.
Okay, better now.
Okay. So my name is Joshua. Pardon me for the network issues. There's a project that we are doing somewhere in some places where network is really a challenge, but I'm glad that I'm here. So without wasting much of our time, my name is Joshua Sapetulu, and I'm a youth facilitator and the peace ambassador. I want to talk about something that I consider very prominent. Most of the issues that they have brought up that are very paramount to achieving the sustainable peace that we want. And looking at the Zambian context, I think Zambia is one of the countries that has enjoyed peace for a long time. And we have taken that peace for granted in that we have not given it the most attention that that Zambia deserves. Mr. Changala just mentioned something that is very important in how much work our ancestors had to put in for us to have the peace that we have now. And that if we are going to ignore all their efforts, then we'll just be rubbishing whatever they did, and that's not fair. The same question would be asked to us by the incoming generations. If we lost this peace that we have today, we will have to answer questions to the coming generations to say, how did you lose the peace? How did you lose this peace that was there, that someone fought for, and then in the process you lost this peace? How did you lose it? So now this is where issues of raising awareness. One man asked me that why would you want to raise awareness in Zambia where you have recorded no incident of war? Then I told them that peace is not the absence of war. Conflicts are everywhere. For a country to have war, then they must have gone through different stages of trying to resolve the conflicts that they have faced, and then they have reached a stage where these conflicts cannot be resolved anymore, and now the end product of that becomes war. So for a country to experience war, there's really a lot that is involved. We just don't wake up today and say we have war and we are going through, we have a war with any other country and all. There are a lot of processes that are involved. Now, in order for us to achieve this sustainable peace that we are talking about, we need to understand that a nurturing environment that will nurture this peace that we have enjoyed for the long time needs to be created. We're going to create this environment for each and every young person to be able to understand that the fact that we don't have war does not mean we have peace, because conflicts are happening in all sectors of life, all dimensions and all. So we shouldn't start fighting for peace or really talking about peace when we see symptoms of war, because then it would be too late. Why can't we deal with conflicts when they are still in their premature stage? Why can't we deal with issues that needs to be resolved when they are still in their early stages? So you understand that in this regard, raising awareness becomes very prominent and important, in that we need to raise awareness, tell the people about the importance of peace. We have taken advantage of the peace here in Zambia because we have never experienced war. Ask many countries that have gone through war, and if they have a chance to live the life that Zambians are living today, trust me, they wouldn't let go of the peace that we are enjoying now. Raising awareness becomes very important. How do you raise this awareness? Maybe that should be the question. awareness matters to the people that you are addressing to. If you're going to raise awareness, it should be pedagogical. It should be transformative in nature, because a lot of awareness, trust me, has been raised. But what will make it from all those awareness that have been raised in the recent past? So we need to understand that the people that we are dealing with have been exposed to a lot of information, and this information that they have been exposed to requires consistency, it requires commitment, it requires sacrifice. Now, achieving an environment that promotes sustainable peace is not so of an easy thing to do, because there are a lot of challenges faced in implementing even this project that we are about to launch. I can't assure you that you won't face problems, but problems will be there, obstacles will be there. But what will make it what will make it different from other projects that have failed is how consistent you are and how consistent we are as young people to work together towards achieving the youth peace and security that we so much desire in this time and era. So let me go back to how we can now raise this awareness so that it's transformative in nature, because we need to understand that a lot of information has been thrown out there, and young people are looking forward to something different, something that will be practically oriented, something that they'll be able to see it moving, instead of just having theoretical frameworks that are speaking to only books and no actions have been attached to it. So we need to be intentional about the awareness that we are raising. If we say let's raise awareness against gender-based violence, let's be intentional. Let's reach out to the right population. Let's involve the right stakeholders and involve each and every relevant authority to see to it that all the people, all those who are spearheading those types of violences are brought to book. Let's be intentional as young people. Let's be assertive enough. Youth agency in this matter becomes very important as we raise awareness, because a lot of obstacles will come from our leaders that have gone ahead of us. A lot of obstacles will come from a lot of organizations that have tried to raise awareness and they have failed. But one thing we need to understand that we are a different group. We are a unique team, a different breed, a young people that is willing to raise this awareness and increase adherence to the peace that we want. So we need to engage young people. And also, as we engage young people, parents becomes, and the older folks, I may call them, becomes very important, because now if you are going to create a mindset change, we need to adapt an awareness program that will bring about a mindset change. Now, that mindset change will not only start with the new breed of young people, it also needs to trickle down to the old folks that were there. If there is no mindset change, those old folks that have been there for a long time will be a deterrent towards achieving the sustainable peace that we have. So if we are going to work in isolation as young people and forget about the people that have lived so much in this that have been spearheading this violence act and everything, we'll be fighting a losing battle, because now we are leaving out the people who are supposed to help us achieve what we want to achieve. So an awareness program that is tailored towards transforming the mindset, transforming the actual mindset of each and every young person, the adults and our leaders who have gone ahead of us, is what is going to bring about change. Because trust me, a Zambian youth today has never experienced war. They have experienced conflicts here and there. They have had taste of what war would be like, but they have never experienced actual war. So in that regard, you don't need to experience war for you to cry for peace. I mean, every little piece that needs to be connected in order to achieve peace should be well kept and nurtured in that, because once you lose peace, it's very difficult to bring it back. Trust me. Ask those who have been in countries where they have lost peace, they have once lost peace and now they want to recover it. Ask them how hard it has been. So raising awareness is not a one-man's show or a one-man's duty. It becomes each and every person that wants to see development. Because in an environment where there is no peace, development is hard to attain. And when we cry as young people that we want to drive sustainable development, it would be very difficult, because then we won't have an environment that would be enabling for us to raise the peace that we want to raise to drive rather the sustainable development that we want to drive. So we need peace. And if we need that environment, if we are really intentional about driving sustainable development, then definitely we need to make that room. We need to create that environment that will be responsive to the needs of society and responsive to our own needs as young people. Raising awareness, I reaffirm that, is not a one-man show. It's not one organization's show. It's everyone's duty, from our parents, the children, and everyone who is involved and intentional about bringing sustainable development and driving the change that we want to see as young people. I understand that we are running out of time. I may need to cut my presentation right here and now. Thank you so much, Andrew, and thank you so much, everyone. Good evening.
Right. Thank you very much, sir. That was very insightful as well. We really enjoyed your presentation, despite you having network problems, but you were able to make it. So thank you so very much. If at all we have any questions, do we have any questions? Unfortunately, my screen has blacked off on my laptop, but I think that the fortunate part is that I'm able to speak. So if we have any questions, okay, let me just read through the last thing, the last contribution in the chat box. I'm using my other phone. Greetings from Zimbabwe. Great conversations going on here. I am a peace builder from a SADC region institution focused on peace and security called Southern African Partnerships for the Prevention of Conflict, which is part of GPPSC. We are regional platforms of SADC, CSOs in peace building, and have a vibrant youth specific platform that funds, supports, and capacity builds youth in peace and conflict issues. So this is Mr. Moyo from Zimbabwe. Thank you very much, Mr. Moyo, for your introduction and contribution, and to everybody that had actually attended, this launch of the Youth Peace and Security Project, of course, which has been initiated by Madam Gloria, and she is the project initiator. Not only is she the project initiator, but she's also the founder of Zambia Peace, Conflict Resolution and Development Initiative. We can't go on without appreciating Women's Ascension as CEO for giving us, for providing to us this platform to be able to launch our project this evening. At this point in time, I would like to welcome Madam Gloria just to give her concluding remarks and just officially launch the project. Thank you very much. Madam Gloria.
Good evening once again. Thank you so much for this wonderful time, and thank you for the people who have come to support and participate in this important meeting. We have heard a number of program advice that we can follow and that we can be able to collaborate. Thank you to AU and those who are working with the GPAC, and I'm sure we'll make sure that we connect with you and see how we can implement this project together. Without further ado, I would like to just say thank you once again, and we look forward to more collaboration and more of such webinars to create awareness, not only online, but to go at community level to share some of these insights that are coming out, and that will actually help our communities to be aware and take action for peace. Thank you so much,
Andrew for this, for coordinating, and yeah, we look forward for more of these kinds of programs. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam, for everything. And okay, just kindly confirm if I'm audible enough. Okay, all right, I am. Yeah, so thank you very much, Madam Gloria, for organizing this project. From today onwards, I think we are going to be having more of these webinars and have more of face-to-face activities to ensure that the project actually goes on successfully. So to all the guests that have been that have done their presentations this evening, thank you very much, Mr. Victor. Thank you for finding time, and to everybody, Mr. Joshua, Mr. Changala, we really, really want to appreciate you. So at this point in time, I think we have come to the end of this webinar. Maybe it's actually a good night from Zambia. And thank you to our wonderful poet. She gave us a very beautiful poem tonight. So it's a good night to all of you, and God bless.
Thank you. Bye.